Thank you for coming tonight. Just a show of hands, who's here for the first time? Great, a lot of new faces, always good. Who's been here more than twice? Great, okay, good. So welcome, very excited to have everybody here tonight. I want to tell a bit about Startup Grind for those of you who don't know much about it. We're here for their first night. Startup Grind is a global community supporting local startup ecosystems through educational events. Just like this, we host leaders in each of those communities who fireside chats just like the one we're going to have tonight. We record those events online, and there's a huge pool of interesting conversations you can take a look at from places around the world. We're at about 250 cities now. And just take a look. There's a global conference usually in February. That is a very exciting event. And there are some regional conferences as well going on, one in London and a few in the West Coast. So please take a look at the events around Startup Grind. They're very exciting. So tonight we have Semyon Dukach. Thank you for joining us. And just a brief introduction. Semyon is a founding partner of One Way Ventures and was formerly the Managing Director of Techstars in Boston. He's a prolific angel investor and a friend to the startup community, and has made over 100 investments, including early investments in Quanergy, SNPP, and Wanderu. We'll talk a little bit about some of that. Prior to becoming a full-time angel, he has co-founded several companies, including Vert and Fast Engines, and you're also the founder of the Troublemaker Award, which is something very interesting, and we'll chat about that too. He received his undergraduate degree in computer science from Columbia University and a master's degree from MIT, and he's also part of the economy list as a top angel investor in New England, as well as very well known for leading one of the MIT blackjack teams in Miami. So please join me in welcoming Semyon tonight. Great, so it's customary for Startup Grind events to start by talking a little bit about your background, where you grew up, where you started, and how did you begin getting interested in entrepreneurship?
I don't think I was ever interested in entrepreneurship, but I was born in Moscow, Russia, in the Soviet Union at the time, and I came here. But then I want to hear you. Oh, okay. Yeah, so anyway, my background, I was born in Russia. I came here as a refugee from the Soviet Union with my family in 1979. I settled in Newark, New Jersey, and lived in the projects there until my father miraculously got a job in Houston, Texas. I had a middle-class lifestyle for a few years until he lost it. And I don't know, eventually I learned computers and went to school in Columbia, New York, computer science, and then did some traveling and ended up here in Boston for grad school at MIT and stayed here ever since. So entrepreneurship, I don't know, I was always like a little bit, I guess, anti-establishment, outside the system, just because of my background maybe, and I naturally gravitated towards finding my own weird path. So I found the weird path. I did some real estate development. I dropped out of the PhD program at MIT to run the blackjack team, or first play blackjack, then run my own blackjack team for a while. And yeah, that was pretty out there. But eventually I got tired of that and ended up building a software company in the 90s and then doing a lot of other stuff. So.
Great. Were there any particular lessons during that period of time that helped you afterwards? I mean, you started by starting your own team there. Was some of that experience motivation and sort of a seed to start your own companies afterwards? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it must have been. I guess I always figured out a little something of my own, but specifically blackjack definitely taught me a whole bunch of stuff that was relevant to business. It was formative, right? I was young and I did it. We learned how to trust people on the team, and how to stay motivated, and how to be really quantitative. trust sort of your numbers, trust the statistics, how to deal with your emotions in a noisy environment. I don't know. Ultimately, I guess I learned how to just waste a few years of my life moving money around some really unpleasant people to a slightly less unpleasant but also cocky and arrogant group of MIT kids, which really wasn't the best use of our talents and limited time on the damn planet. So I actually regret the amount of time I spent on it, which was about 3 or 4 years of my life. I don't regret doing it, it was super cool, but I regret doing it for so long. I think I should have done it for less time than that.
So what happened afterward? You transitioned to, did you start working right away after that, or you decided you wanted to start something right away yourself?
Well, like I said, I was doing this real estate stuff, just improvising. I heard from somebody that you could do something, so I tried, and I borrowed some money, and I bought a house, and hired some random people who didn't know what they were doing to tear it apart, and tried to rebuild it without any pyramids. I improvised that. And then blackjack is also highly improvisational. Although we did, at least to some degree, succeed in making it a little bit more established. We paid taxes and we tried to keep it legal. Didn't get anything legal. How did I create a company? How did I get a job? I didn't get a job. I started a company.
Right, so your first company was right after that experience?
Yeah, no, actually, you know what? I did work. I worked with friends, people I knew who had a startup, because the web came out. And a lot of my work at MIT and Columbia was actually really relevant to the internet. But it's laughing at it. It's back. It's back. It's magic. I know the sound control panel in the back of the room is working hard at improving this experience. Anyway, like my thesis that I worked on at MIT before I left the blackjack was the very first way to transfer money on the internet. So it was something that was actually very practical and extremely relevant to the development of the web. But I foolishly abandoned it in order to play blackjack. Because I thought I'd make some money right now. Obviously, I would have made a lot more money if I just finished the PhD thesis, because I would have ended up starting a much larger company than I did. Because at the time that I worked on it, it was all hypothetical. There was no web, it was the internet, but nobody used the internet outside of research labs and universities. And actually, I got a lot of pushback at MIT in particular. A lot of people didn't respect my work because it was a very practical commercial application of the internet, and that was considered to be bad, which is very hard to believe right now, but in 1990, most people who used the internet thought that the idea of using the internet for business of any sort was nasty. It's like sell out of cool technology for bad purposes. That's how people believe it to be. So, I don't know, not everybody, of course, some of the other people who work on this stuff, but most people, for sure. And so, when I sort of realized that while I was playing blackjack, this thing called the web appeared and the internet went mainstream and everyone was using it, I was like, oh man, maybe I should get back to this interesting computer science. And I ended up doing some work with my friends with this company that basically did service for banks and for big corporations, bring them online. And while doing that, I knew that I had no interest in the services business. I wanted to build a kind of product. And so I looked online, and well, these things called Usenet forums, basically chat groups that they had back then, and realized that there was a particular kind of thing that was missing that a bunch of people were asking about. So I'm like, I can build it. This is easy. And they went and built it, and I spun the company out from those guys. They didn't really want to do it, so it had to be my company. They equity in it. And they were in Canada. I was here in Cambridge, and so started at 675 SF, and that's where actually it was there the entire time until I sold it. And that, well, it was bootstrapped. Got a whole bunch of customer profits. Kind of weird profits. Late 90s, double time. A lot of funding and a lot of credit. But we actually bootstrapped companies. It's profitable. And we didn't have funding, really. A couple of angels. But the key, the personal growth moment there for me was probably most around the fact that we had customers, of course, right? And the customers were very different than casinos. Like, I'd like the casinos to give us money. I mean, the casinos didn't give us money, we took the money from the casinos, right? But they never really said, thank you for taking our money. They're like, oh, you're not an idiot gambler, you're actually an MIT student, get the hell out of here, right? And sorry, we'll take away the free room and the free whatever. Whereas the business customers, they also paid us really crazy exorbitant sums of money for software, right? For stuff that it cost us nothing. We already wrote it, like they just made them a copy of it, and they gave us all this cash. It's kind of, this is nice. But it was kind of almost as magical as but for they didn't have something like they were actually right. Say, thank you for selling us the software. Thank you for accepting our $30,000 for this piece of software, because it made a difference. It did this thing, it made our website not crash, and our website matters to people because like one was the New York Times, right? And so this VP of operations of the New York Times wrote me this personal email thanking me for the fact that the New York Times website didn't go down, because that actually affects the world, the whole world, right? And my little bit of software played a tiny little role for that company in that moment. And this was all news to me. Like, oh my God, I'm not like a weird kid outside the environment, like doing my own thing and screw everybody, right?
Solving problems, adding value.
I'm part of like the world, this is awesome. Like, holy shit, I'm a good guy. You know what I mean? Like, it was like first moment of trying to do something meaningful for others. I wasn't trying to do it for others. I was just trying to make money. But and I was the kind of entrepreneur I'd never invested as an investor now. Like, I was very short-sighted and selfish little prick, really. But hearing that from a customer, it was like a window into a different world, right? And then it gets addictive. You want to do it again. You become better, really. And then the next thing that was transformative to me, aside from all the lessons, of course I learned all the lessons that you guys also learned, right? Which is have startups, all the hard lessons. There's lots of lessons. We'll go on. But the transformative thing was actual mentorship and CEO. So I didn't really have mentors. I didn't listen to anybody. I didn't respect anybody older than me. Like, I never talked to my professors. Like, I just, did my own thing. But then I went to this Cambridge Business Development Center. They had a mentored CEO group, like a bunch of CEOs in a room, pizza, and some old dudes, like really old ones. Who did actually, like, and the analysis was pretty antiquated, right? They didn't know what the internet was, but still, they wanted to know. And so they gave advice that every once in a while was useful, but the experience was really neat for me. And I found like I learned a lot from the other young CEOs. And sometimes a little bit from the old guys too, right? I mean, mostly we were hoping the old guys would invest in our companies, but actually they gave us some good advice. And later, when I sold my company, the group asked me to come back as a mentor, even though I was not an old guy. I was actually 28, but they asked me to come back as a mentor, which was like an ego boost too, but also I was like, holy, this is great. I get to keep learning. I get to keep benefiting, and pretend to be a mentor, but I could learn, and I really, really liked it. And later, much later in life, when I realized who I really was, and that this kind of interaction was a core part of who I really am, that part was formative to me. It was an important moment. But yeah, I sold the business when things really got crazy, early 2000.
So you built a few more companies before becoming an investor yourself, or you built a few more companies before becoming an investor, or
I
when
tried.
you started?
I tried. I didn't even build it. I mean, that one was like 25 people when I sold it. I didn't build a big company. I got a company to that size without losing money and without raising. So it was an accomplishment, but I didn't build a company, a real company. And other things, I did start other stuff. Yeah, I started another company, so I had ideas, and I would bounce my ideas to get everybody. I learned very quickly from the CEO groups that you shouldn't be afraid of people stealing your ideas, like some of you guys I spoke to earlier at work. That's really dumb. I don't do that. Nobody's going to steal your idea. They have ideas that they like more than yours. And the hard part is getting other people to even hear your idea, much less steal it. And so every once in a while, it resonated, and somebody would actually want to hear more, and then they would add to the idea. And well, one idea people liked so much that they started a company with me, and I was chairman and an investor. I never was a CEO, but one of the other guys actually ran with it full time. So I was still running Fast Engines, and we started this thing called Vert, which actually raised a bunch of VC money. It was an interesting business for a while, but ended up dying years later. And then I then started like another thing much later. But mostly I invested, and I did a lot of angel, well, I don't know, 6 or 7 angel investments before I sold my company. So like small checks from whatever money I had left over from blackjack and houses and stuff. When I sold my company, I wrote some bigger checks. And then things got hard for a while. I wrote very few checks. And I didn't even think of the check writing as my main thing. It was just like most people who have a little money who are in tech, who have friends who start companies, they write angel checks. It's just something you do. It's like a little hobby, right? But after I started like another company that went nowhere, I wanted to do something more meaningful. I wanted to really like be longer term and give back and like be better much later in life. And I realized that the angel investing was actually my favorite thing to do, that I couldn't like learn some new way of doing something for the world. I tried, I couldn't, I took some classes, whatever. I haven't found any other way, but I realized that I could be a better angel. I could be more angelic as an investor. I could actually try to find founders who I can help as a mentor. And now I'm fast forwarding like 15 years, like I'm jumping around, right? But like maybe 10 years ago, so the blackjack stuff was like 25 years ago. But maybe 10 years ago, I decided that I was going to be a full-time investor for the rest of my life. I realized I'm not really an entrepreneur, because I'm kind of a crappy, short-sighted entrepreneur, it turns out. I don't have the focus. I never loved any of the companies I started. I always thought about the next company while starting this one. Again, I would never invest in me as an entrepreneur. I'm not that great at it. But I love being an angel. And I kept getting better at it. And every time I would try to mentor someone, I got better. And I liked it more. So anyway, I decided that's who I am. And I've been really happy and clear in my life ever since.
When you say you got better, what do you mean? Like you got better at finding interesting companies or great people or more return for your money? What do you mean when you say you were getting better at it?
Well, it's all of that, but specifically what I mean. Well, I figured out what my goal is, first of all. So my goal as an investor is to make a big personal impact on the people I'm investing in. They're my customers, right? I give them money, and it's a small form of impact, right? They need money, and I give it to them, but I don't have a lot of money to give them. And money is not the main thing people need. And what I have a lot to give is like my emotion, my feeling, my empathy, I love them, right? And so sometimes, right, when it's good, when it works. And as I started doing some mentoring, at first I invested without mentoring, right? Eventually I started mentoring, and most of the time mentoring is a pretty superficial thing. It's hard to be a good mentor. Like, you try and like, that was nice. You introduce somebody to somebody once and whatever. But every once in a while, it's like, whoa, like you spend an hour with somebody and their whole life changes, like they're on a different trajectory. You help them realize something that they were absolutely not seeing, and you could be the reason they succeeded, like, or maybe a reason why they shut down a company that would have sucked away 10 years of their life. Like, you can make a big difference sometimes, rarely, right? And so I got addicted to this very rare feeling of making a big difference in a small amount of time. It felt like leverage. It felt like, I'm doing the right thing on the planet. Like, the people are very great. I like it when people are really grateful. It's just nice, And so I was fishing for those moments, right? And then I also got lucky. Like one of these very early investments I made, where I got a little bit involved with the company, it ended up going public and like paying me a big dividend, and I was just doing well. It was really luck. I wasn't good as an investor in the 90s, but it enabled me to write a lot more checks. And then when I started consciously trying to optimize for the big impact, look for, like, learn and get better, and get involved with founders only when I could really help a lot. Like, like my results, when I stopped like focusing and obsessing about my results, they improved actually, at least on paper. Like, it hasn't been as long, but the paper results, by paper I mean when companies, you invest and raise money from others at a higher valuation, so theoretically on paper, like, you're making money on average, you're expected to. Anyway, in that way, they improved a lot, and that was probably driven by, it was less by like direct helping people, because again, those moments are still pretty rare, right? But more by just like having a good reputation. Like when you can really, when you, as an investor, help a founder a lot, you are appreciated and you're remembered, and then the really strong founders who normally I wouldn't even know, because it's a big world out there and you don't know everybody, right? They suddenly find a way to me and I get better deals, right? And then I've gotten some like really, really high returns, a couple, that are like several hundred X my money that I only met because of good stuff I did for other people, and it's just somehow, it came back around on its own. Like when I didn't engineer it. Like I really didn't. I stopped caring about that. I felt like I don't need the big returns. Like I'm fine. Small returns okay. I have enough money. I didn't need more money. I didn't want to spend more money. Like I was okay with fairly, reasonably humble, not too humble, but a reasonably humble life. And then the returns got better, and then I started writing even more checks. It became very, very prolific. That's where the 100 number comes from. I was just prolific in like 2012. I was really active. And then at the end of 13, the Techstars people actually noticed me and came to me and asked me to take over the Boston program, which is really one of the most strong, like reputable, successful programs in the whole Techstars ecosystem. And so that was amazing. I didn't expect that at all, and I was honored. I really loved the people who were running it before me and the companies there. I was surprised that they would want me to do it. But I did it for a few years, and it's been great.
Let's talk a little bit about that. So when you came in, bringing that experience, and you've been so candid in describing, did you want to change things at Techstars? What did you do different when you got there? Did you shake things there, or were you just kind of adapting to what's going on?
No, I want to improve it, of course. Naturally, you want to make things better, and it's a very dynamic thing. Not that long. I mean, there's only a couple of years older than that. So everything is still new and people are learning. But I wouldn't say that Techstars is broken. I have to fix it. Techstars is a really cool community. I want to be a part of it, and I'm honored to have the privilege of being responsible for Techstars' reputation. Let's say, right, for maintaining, for bringing in good mentors, and I get to now decide who is a good mentor and who is a crappy mentor, right? And so I figured out how to do that a little bit, and I get to decide which companies to take. And so that was a learning experience for sure. And my angel experience helped me as a starting point, but then I think I got better at selecting the ones that are more likely to become successful. That the environment is going to be conducive to them becoming more successful. We want to make a big impact, like an organization. We don't want founders who don't need us, right? But we also don't want founders who have no chance of building a big business, because it's a for-profit too. It's a mission-driven for-profit. Like Techstars wants to develop ecosystems and help founders all over the world bring their companies, their products to market wherever they are, right? In this case in Boston, I was only in charge of the Boston program. I didn't work on others. But it's also a for-profit organization. There's investors, and we get equity, we get ownership in these companies. So, I enjoyed it. And I'm sure I changed some stuff, but I kept changing and iterating, and the guy who took it over next is going to change some more stuff. It's a work in progress. But it's a pretty cool program. It's a community. It's a network of people. And some of the people in the network are really tight with each other. They bond. During the program, it gets very intense, and people bond, and then they end up being close and really helping each other. So the mentors can be very helpful, and even like the management, like me, can help a little bit. But most of the value actually comes from the CEOs helping each other for years after the program is over. So a lot of the value I provide is actually the selection. By selecting like 10 or 12 other amazing CEOs, I help each CEO, right? Because they couldn't have found those specific people themselves. And Techstars is the brand where we get like hundreds and hundreds of applications, right? So that's all possible.
So what were you looking for in that selection process in terms of the...
All the investors look for the same stuff. Like I was looking for the same stuff that every investor looks for. Founders who are passionate, who are relentless, who don't give up, or others, and really good decision makers. Decisive, and they need to have the capacity to listen. to learn and to adjust. But they can't be like waving in the wind and listening to everybody, right? They need to have a point of view while listening to it. So we help. Sometimes we take people who are very strong-willed, stubborn, and we help them listen better. We're not very good at taking people who are really good at listening, who have no decision-making ability, and help them learn how to be leaders. Like, we don't do that. Sometimes we accidentally get those people, but they fail. There's no way to teach that.
So you recently transitioned from Techstars, and you started One Way Ventures. Let's talk a little bit about that. How that came up, what are you doing there, and is it a VC fund? Tell us about it a little bit.
One Way is a new VC fund that we just launched with my partner, Evelyn, the woman who ran Techstars Boston with me. So we launched it, and it is a mission-driven impact fund. It's a venture fund, it's a for-profit fund, but it exists for the purpose of investing in the best immigrant founders. We're immigrants, and the fund is for immigrants. So only immigrants qualify for us to look at the startups. It's a filter that we will apply. Within the filter, once the immigrants, we look for the best founders, best entrepreneurs, like any other investor. But unlike other investors, we do not look at founders who aren't immigrants. And there's a number of reasons why we decided to do it that way. One is that it's how we identify ourselves, and it's something we really care. It's an issue we care about. I believe that the world needs to have more freedom of movement. Like, people should be able to, like I did, move to another country and do whatever they want, have an opportunity to build a company, among other things, anywhere in the world. I think that's a basic, fundamental human right. I don't care about the fact that immigrants are good for America. It doesn't interest me that much, the fact that an immigrant is going to pay more taxes and consumer benefits, that an immigrant is going to be more likely to create jobs than just take away people's jobs. I mean, I know all these things are true, but if those things weren't true, I would be exactly as passionate about letting everybody in and having no border as I am today, because I think that the basic principles of equal opportunity, of equality regardless of the accident of birth, they morally require each of us to welcome anyone who was born anywhere to at least have a shot, to apply for the job, to start the company. They don't have to succeed in the company, they don't have to get the job, but the notion that they need a special stamp to get the damn job is bullshit. It's not right. It's simply not right to say, well, an American worker shouldn't have to compete with a Chinese guy who comes over here. Why the hell not? The guy didn't choose to be born in China. Could be. Deal with it, dude. I mean, that's how I feel. And that's not particularly popular view everywhere I go, but that's part of the personal motivation. And so that was on the side, right? But from the other side, like any other kind of startup, it's better if the founder of the startup is driven by, has some purpose other than just making money. You'll end up making more money. It'll be a better investment, right? You'll be more effective. You'll stay motivated if you have that purpose. People know that. Like, investors know that founders should be mission-driven. And I think they're just starting to discover that venture fund founders should also be mission-driven. And recently, there's been more of a trend of other people starting mission-driven venture funds. So there's venture funds that only invest in companies that address global warming, that only invest in companies that address inequality in the inner cities, et cetera, et cetera. So I knew that I had to start a fund with a purpose. And it was very easy to sort of figure out which was my purpose. Somebody actually, a mentor suggested it to me, because this mentor, I was still at Techstars, I'd given him notice, I didn't know, I knew I was going to do some kind of fund afterwards, I didn't know where or when or how. And this mentor, his name is Joe Caruso, he's an angel investor around Boston, you guys might know him, some of you are smiling, he's a great guy. Anyway, he saw me ranting about this immigration protest I went to, because like the order came out where Trump banned all these people from 7 Muslim countries, and I thought that was ridiculous, and so I was out there jumping up and down to the lunch, and I normally never ever do it. I was out there screaming, and so when I was telling Joe about it, the idea came from. Of course, we can keep switching. It's cool. Or I'm sure there's some other way to do this. bring the camera real close. I don't know. Anyway, I knew I wanted to have fun with the mission, and once someone helped me realize that obviously this was my mission, it just crystallized, and that was in February, and from that day, I finished the program, and I focused on the program until it ended, and demo day was in early May, and my last day was May 31st, and the new managing director started May 31st, who's awesome. He's an alum of the program, and I still support those companies, and I'm a little bit involved with that, but most of my energy since May 31st has been on launching this fund. We just launched the website last week. There was a little bit of press. I think this is the first event. I speak frequently at various things, but this is the first time I'm speaking since we launched One Way Venture, so it's my first time talking about it. So you guys are the first to hear of it, and not the last, because it's going to be, this is my long-term project, right? This is something I'll be doing for the rest of my life. I want it to be a large fund. I want it to be a global fund with many equal partners in many cities, in many countries. I want to back immigrants from anywhere to anywhere. Yeah, thank you. But like the rest of you guys who have big ambitions, I would say you got to start with something specific. So specifically, both me and my partner here in Boston, and we're going to invest in Boston companies founded by immigrants who have moved from other places to here, and that's going to be Fund 1. And over time, we'll add more partners who are able to address other markets. And we have big ambitions in the long term, but we're starting locally.
Fantastic. And so, how do people approach the fund? How does it work? What are the best channels to learn more about it? Just talking about the website. Are you going to be hosting events, or is there a selection process? How does it work?
Yeah, so we're not investing just yet. We launched the website, but the fund requires a few other pieces besides the website, such as the capital to invest in the companies. Little details like that. We do expect to complete all the other stuff soon, early fall. So by September, hopefully by October, we will be making investments. And there'll be instructions on our website for how to find us. But generally speaking, it's good to reach investors through other people who they know. I mean, most investors rely on an extended network of people they trust to help them vet everything, right? Because you can try to go in cold, and sometimes it works. Sometimes you can grab someone's attention at some event, but that's not the best way at all. No, the best way is just to do your thing and to talk to everyone and just to try to spend your time recruiting the best co-founders you can possibly find and spend time with your customers and just move things forward. And in that process, you're going to end up naturally, especially if you're in a place like Boston, right? You're going to end up meeting people who know investors, because you'll meet other founders, and some of the other founders will be ahead of you, and maybe they'll have raised money from investors. And it's not that hard. There's a few hops and jumps, but basically, if you're working in complete isolation, it's unlikely that you've gotten very far. And if you're not in complete isolation, it's actually not that hard to get the warm intro and to find someone who knows someone. But I don't want to discourage you trying to knock down the door and just go in cold. Some people do that, and there's always a different way of meeting somebody. But I don't know. I'm not that hard to find, generally speaking. I'm around. I come to things like this, right?
So, what advice would you give to entrepreneurs that are interested in that angle, diversity, and obviously, besides being an immigrant, what type of things should they prepare for? What type of things should they be ready to share to call your attention, or just in general, in terms of getting?
Well, I'm not specifically looking for people who are interested in diversity as an angle or anything like that. That's not my demographic. I just want to be clear. Like every other VC, I'm looking for a particular type of personality of a very strong CEO, founder who could build an amazing team and has the vision to do something really big and disrupt the market and make a lot of money for my investors, right? I happen to limit my universe to people who are immigrants. It's a filter I apply because of my own purpose, right? It has nothing to do with the filter that the founders themselves are applying. The founders should have their mission. It's not my mission, right? I don't need people with a similar mission. I mean, it could be, right? But it's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for people who know who their customers and know why they're building what they're building. It could be anything. But the people themselves, because of my own filter, have to be immigrants. And I define immigrants very broadly. It's basically anyone who has been shaped to a significant degree by an immigration experience. So it could be someone who moved here, but it could be someone who even grew up in a family whose parents had moved here, if their upbringing and the culture in the family was such that they feel like an immigrant. It's kind of a subtle distinction. Now, one of the reasons I think I can make a big impact on the world and have this fund become large, like the only way a fund can become large over the years is if it makes huge high returns for its investors. That's what makes the fund get larger, right? People invest more money because it's a fund, right? It makes money. And so you can't have global impact and change the world through more immigration and more opportunity and all these things unless you're like extremely financially successful. But it's all connected, because this fund will be financially successful because, well, for one thing, I've been successful as an angel, and that might not necessarily mean I'll be successful as a venture capitalist. Like, the checks are larger and it's different and it's harder in a lot of ways. But I know that by restricting myself to immigrants, my numbers will improve, and I have data to back that up. And the data is quite simple. Significantly more of the large, really successful startups have immigrant founders than startups in general. It's double. Okay, so half of the unicorns have immigrant founders. That's a fact. And a quarter of the startups have immigrant founders. So for whatever reason, immigrant founders have double. They have all these disadvantages, you'd think, like they're in some ways disadvantaged. But man, they certainly succeed a hell of a lot more when you define, like, when you look at big success, not necessarily small success. And the big success, from a venture fund's point of view, the big success drives the results much more than how much small success you have, right? It doesn't matter if they fail more often. They actually fail more often too. But it doesn't matter, right? Because Google was started by an immigrant, right? And Tesla was started by an immigrant, etc. So the numbers help, but also having a fund where the partners themselves are very passionate about the demographic really helps, right? The fund tends to do better because the partners work harder, right? And the marketing is more effective as well because it's clear, there's positioning. You can build a brand. You can eventually reach people who don't come to events like this, like people who just read about it or whatever, right? You can reach a broader audience when you have a clear story with a mission.
So right now, are you looking to build also partnerships or bring in more partners as investors of the fund? Are there any characteristics or anything you're looking for in that not just the companies that come in, but the partners?
There are, yeah, I'm not sure I'm at liberty to speak too much about the fundraising process. I don't know if this is this like a broadcast channel? Is this considered media? Or is this just like your own website? And, you know?
No, we'll be sure.
Right, it's fine. It's like the rules of fundraising prevent you from, like, you can't advertise your fundraising. But I can share, like, just informally, I can say that, yeah, I'm actually not accepting all investors into the fund. The only people who invest in the fund, I am personally a large investor in my own fund. Okay, that's one thing. But another is that I only accept investors who care about immigrants on some level. So I don't yet have any university endowment funds investing in my fund because that's hard and I'm not there yet. But I would love to have some university endowment funds where the president of the university, like, publicly supports immigration and opposes some of the recent Trump rules around immigration. And then, well, obviously the president of the university doesn't direct the endowment money, right? There's managers of the endowment money who direct that stuff and they care about returns. But I want that double kind of story, right? I want it to make sense for the organization whose money is being managed. So the endowment manager, of course, I have to convince them that I'll have better returns than every other investor. That's the only thing they're going to be concerned about. But I want to also convince the president that this is the right thing to do, this supports something they believe in. And that would be an aligned investor in that case. So for now, my investors are just people I know who believe in immigrants, family offices, right, smaller organizations. And everybody cares about immigrants. That's important to me because I want to be able to tell a founder that not only do I care about founders in general, not only am I especially motivated because all my founders are now immigrants, and I am an immigrant, I love immigrants, but my limited partners, the people who've given me money to invest, also care to some degree. I think that's kind of unique. It's a good story. It's what I want. So I'm trying to go about my fundraising in that way.
Great. So I want to open it to the audience for questions. I think we have about 20 minutes to take advantage of the time, so please. Mike here and one there.
Hi, so are there any other filters that you are applying besides founders being immigrants, size of the investments, areas of science and technology?
Yeah, there's other filters. There's not so much areas. Okay, so I don't do biotech. I mean, like any investor, I have to understand, at least approximately, what the hell you do. I don't want to be an expert in the field that you're in, but I need to understand. I need to speak the language, so I don't do biotech because I don't speak the language. And because also the regulatory process is like unbelievably long, and I don't understand necessarily the financial implications of like a 10-year regulatory cycle and having to plan an IPO like when you haven't even gotten your approval, right? So I don't do that. But within tech, I'm very, very broad. I don't have a narrow focus. As an angel, I've been broad, and the Techstars, Evelyn and I have been very broad, and our other partner, Ty, have been very broad in our selection. And so I intend for now to continue being very broad in this fund. My partner may have a more narrow view than the technologies she likes. It will have some independence from each other, but I'll be extremely broad on tech. Of course there's other filters. It's just a filter, right? Like you pass that filter, and it's kind of, it's discriminatory, it's arbitrary, but you can't look at everything. You have to filter somehow, right? So that happens to be the filter that we use. And beyond that, it's a bunch of other random, subjective, subtle things that VCs do. Mostly it's a gut reaction to the founder, right? But you build that and you grow as an investor and you develop it and you adjust it from every single time you make a decision, right? The longer you've been investing, you keep adjusting it and tweaking it, and you want it to work. You want to invest in people you trust. You want to invest in people who don't end up behaving badly, right, towards other people, particularly their investors, but other people in general, right? It's usually once someone treats people badly, they treat everybody badly. So you want to try to find people who are trustworthy, who are honorable, who are persistent, right? It is, right, like I'm not going to ask a founder to keep working on a business that's not working and burning up their life. Like, I will say, yeah, move on. Like, I got to tell you that you got to move on, but I don't want them to take that advice. As an investor, right, it's not in my interest. So I'll advise them to move on, and I'll let them move on. I'll never say they keep doing it for me, that's not right. I'd never do that. But when I'm initially investing, I do choose the people who are going to keep going, right? But I'm trying to make a guess as to whether they'll keep going, because in order to achieve like a tremendously successful result, there's only one secret. You have to get like extraordinarily lucky. There is no one who has built anything really large who didn't get extraordinarily lucky. But it turns out you can actually create your own luck, right? And the way you create your own luck is by survival. You have to be in business long enough and be in a state of mind and a state of capability and have a team that's strong enough around you that you can pounce on an opportunity when it comes your way. An opportunity is going to come in an unpredictable fashion. Something will change about the world, but if you know everything about your market by that point, and if you have customers and you have great engineering and you have all these ways of implementing and seizing that opportunity, suddenly you end up building a gigantic organization, right? But part of that is not giving up when after a couple of years it's not going anywhere. So you want to pick people who are persistent. You want to pick people who can communicate, or at least who can improve their communication abilities, right? Because you can't build a business alone. You want to pick people who can inspire, who have like inspirational, aspirational abilities, language. You want to pick people who are confident, who are confident and competent, and able to implement and get stuff done, right? And who can make good decisions. And you also really, it's wonderful to pick CEOs who are aware of themselves, right? Who understand their weaknesses. A CEO, like they're never perfect, right? Like they're people, and so they have all kinds of horrible weaknesses. And it turns out, from what I've learned, there's actually almost no limit to the weaknesses a CEO can have, except that they have to be aware of the weaknesses. Like they can be an introvert, they can be an extrovert, they can be this or that, but what they can't be is they can't be unaware of themselves, because then they don't end up filling that in with great executives, right? So if they know where they're weak, they can fill it in. And they have to be able to do a few things. Like they have to make decisions. Like someone's got to make. If the company is not decisive or everything is by consensus, it's unlikely to really get large, because the one who fast enough, the one sees the opportunity, because it'll debate the opportunity until the opportunity passes, and then it'll try to seize it and it'll be too late, So you have to have this ability as an organization to make quick decisions, which almost always means one person who makes a damn decision. Now, there's exceptions, there's co-CEOs or whatever, but it's rare. Usually the simplest way is just to have a CEO. The CEO has to get the company funded, right? They have to make sure that you don't run out of cash. So whether that means find investors or find customers or whatever, somehow, or find people who will work for free. Doesn't matter how you do it, but you have to not have the door shut down. And you have to recruit awesome people. You have to recruit better people than yourself, and then you have to retain them. You have to convince them to keep working with you, for a while. That's pretty much it. If you can do those things, you can be a great CEO. And you don't have to know anything else.
In your experience of investing in successful startups, would you say the most important thing is the people and not necessarily the idea?
Yeah, everybody knows that. That's old news. I mean, we're not going to discover that today. It's the people, man. It's not the idea. Yeah, we all have ideas. It's not the idea. It's the people and the execution. It's the people in the right moment in their life and in the right configuration. It's not just the people, it's not the quality of the people in abstract. It's a particular configuration of specific people that are excited about a particular idea, and more importantly, are excited about serving a particular customer, right? And that configuration creates a culture of execution and success, and iteration, and learning. It's all that, right? But it's always about the people. The right people at the right time, working on the right thing. Because if the people are working on the wrong thing, then they might be really effective people in some other environment, but they might be tired and bored in this environment, and they're not going to be effective.
Besides the purpose, how are you going to differentiate your fund to attract users and others?
Besides what?
Besides the purpose. So the purpose.
Besides the mission, besides the immigrant story, how is the fund going to be differentiated? It's just the people. Just like I'm going to pick the best founders, I hope the founders pick the best investors. So I hope to be among the best VCs who can add the most value, right? So you differentiate with execution. You actually help your companies become successful. Ultimately, it's the success of your previous investments that will drive decisions. So how will I differentiate my fund before I have that track record of success? Well, a little bit based on my previous track record of success and my partner's, her track record of success was actually significantly more impressive, I think, than mine, because while I've been a very active investor, she's actually been a CEO of large companies and turned them around and make them succeed when they were failing. So our track record differentiates, our story, our mission, our passion, and I think the people who have helped before, the way they communicate about us. And we don't have to be completely differentiated, right? We're not unique. There are other wonderful investors. So you want to pick the investor that's right for you. We hope that immigrant founders who are in the area where we physically are will want to work with us. We know they will, because we know that we're good investors. And other founders will speak to that. And we would encourage anyone to think about who they take money from, not to grab the first people who say yes. Even though it's really hard to get anyone to say yes, you should still, at the same time, you should be picky, right? Even when no one says yes, you should be picky, because this is important. Like, you can get tremendous value from venture investors. They take board seats. They spend a lot of time with you. They help you build your business. And believe it or not, you think that the $1 million they put in is like, that's what you really want, but it's going to turn out that the couple of hours a month, a week, or whatever that they spend with you, it's worth a lot more than $1 million. Like, it usually is. And so if you get the wrong ones, they can actually destroy value. So, and they have to be the right ones for you, and for your business, and for your team, and for your time. So it's not a question of like completely unique differentiation, in the sense that like a venture fund is not a scalable business that has to like win or take all. There are multiple good VC funds. There's other good investors. We don't have to be the best, right? We just have to be very good. And at the end of the day, I'm a good mentor, because I really care. And in general, like, people can help more when they really care. So you want to pick investors who will care about you. That's a big part of it.
I read that you are one of the famous angel investors, lovers of Boston. Then I read again that venture capitalists like to bite to their portfolio companies. And because you have filters and just a thought, Do you wanna? I know that Silicon Valley is the number one. Even if Boston has one of the brightest minds in biotechnology, education, technology, but still Boston is not there as Silicon Valley. Is your vision to create this one-way venture capital fund here to attract the talent and create a Google in Boston, or you want to go and look for Google in Silicon Valley and invest in it? And I want to go back to the discussion that I had with you earlier, and you said you need to know someone so that someone trusts you, and then you call and you do a circle and come to me, and then it leads me. Do you look into your trusted circle locally, or you look in your trusted circle nationally? Then I have another follow-up question, which is immigrant. What's the definition? Immigrant to USA or immigrant going to Sweden?
Yeah, so I touched on the immigrant question again. The definition is any human being on the planet whose personality has been shaped and formed by an experience of immigration from anywhere to anywhere.
Based anywhere.
Anywhere. But to answer your first question, I don't do a lot of investing remote. I've done some. I have. Maybe 10 or 15% of my angel investing has been remote. It's not my favorite way of doing it because I don't end up doing a lot of mentoring. I don't end up being a very helpful advisor when the person isn't nearby. I don't like flying to board meetings. I don't. I do like to ride my bike to places. And part of the secret of extending my immediate circle of companies I can reach is to just ride further and faster. So I try to ride really fast and really far. Yeah. I think I will personally do most of my investing in a few geographies. I will invest occasionally outside of those geographies, but I will limit that because I don't want to be flying all the time. It's just a lifestyle choice. Because I like to bike and I don't like to fly as much. I'll fly, but it's not as nice as biking. That's just a personal choice. One way is not me. It's not about me. It's something I want to build and create. I want this fund to exist for a lot longer than I'm alive. And I want there to be partners in many geographies covering many, many places where there's entrepreneurship, and including the Valley, including San Francisco. But I'm not particularly focused. I don't believe we're going to necessarily expand to San Francisco first. I would love to expand to Berlin or to Singapore or to India. And of course, I would have to have the right partner who understands those markets in a way that I do not. But we'll be in San Francisco too, and who knows, I might one day relocate to one of these other places and try to do investing there. I certainly spend more and more time in New York, and I take the Acela, and my bike fits on the Acela, so I can bike around New York and then go back on the Acela, so that counts. We'll play it by ear. But I think Boston is great, and yeah, the West Coast has its advantages. I love things about the West Coast, but I love things about Boston. And personally, I've thought about moving out there. There's things I really love about it. But at the moment, at least, at this point in time, I'm far more effective here, because as a venture capitalist, and new venture capitalist, where your network is just as important. Just like I said, like you guys have to have warm interests and know a bunch of people in the community. Well, so does the investor. In order for me to be a very valuable board member and a very smart investor, I need to know lots of people in the community. And well, I've been here a while, and I've gotten to know a lot of people, and I know other investors here in a way that I don't know as well in other locations. So I'm most effective here, and I'll end up, I think, building the initial stages of this fund here.
This might be related to your question in some ways. How do you align technology with the market? To what extent? Do you have to align technology with the market?
You have to align technology with the market.
Well, the reason I'm asking is normally you have sort of particular technology, you have ideas, right? And then you form some ideas about the market, which problem you're solving, but ultimately, who's going to buy it exactly? Is it going to work? And that data, this is what I call the alignment.
Yeah, are you an engineer?
I'm a physicist, software engineer also.
Yeah. So a lot of people, when it's wonderful to be educated as an engineer, right? It's a great way to be smart and objective and learn about the world and satisfy curiosity. And and find the truth, right? And differentiate between reality and wishes. So science engineering is fantastic stuff. And it's also very good for being able to build a business because you have hard skills and you can actually create differentiated solutions. But there's a lot of disadvantages as well to an engineering background when starting a company. And one of the common disadvantages, right, is you tend to think too much about the technology as a starting point. And you're like, okay, here's this technology, what's the right market? And that's not usually the best way to build a company, okay? Because what you want to do is start with a person. Like, who are my people? Who do I really care about, first of all, why? Who do I want to serve, or who are my customers? And you want to actually, like, literally talk to them, the people, right? I know that maybe you have a consumer thing that just affects all kinds of different people, but still you start with somebody. Talk to some actual consumers, segment it, don't try to serve everybody all at once, right? And if it's business customers, then it's even easier to get very specific. And you want to spend time with these people and understand, empathize a little bit, you know? Use the emotional kind of intelligence that maybe you haven't spent as much time developing, right, as the quantitative stuff. And try to feel their pain, okay? Try to relate to them and try to find a sense of purpose around the actual thing that you're building for them. That turns the whole question around. Now you're not shopping for a market. Now it's like, wow, you really want to do this thing for these people. It doesn't have to be solving a pain. Even better is you can create a joy. You could just like make these people be inspired or have fun or laugh or whatever. Like that you're doing something for somebody, right? And then when you figure that out, you can go back to your technical skills and say, all right, I know all this engineering and physics, and I can learn about these other sciences because I know physics, and once you know physics, computer science is a breeze, right? Like you can understand everything. Let me use my skills to try to figure out how. But if you do the how before you know the why, it's very hard to find the right why later. You want to start with the why and then build the how. And the tech is just the how. It's interchangeable.
What stage are you planning to invest in?
Seed and A. Reseed, you know. We'll go early. We're going to try to get involved quite early with teams that really inspire us.
You spoke a lot this evening about looking for entrepreneurs with conviction that are relentless, but it also seems that at times those entrepreneurs are the same ones with multiple ideas. So how do you distinguish when an entrepreneur may be sporadic in their ideas versus relentless and focused about one singular idea that they can commit to?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think it's true that great entrepreneurs are very entrepreneurial. And they get excited about new shiny things. And they can sometimes go off and like start new things while they haven't finished the first thing. So you do want someone who can finish something, right? People who only start stuff without finishing anything are tough. Although, like, they can be great. You can invest in them. You just have to help them leave. I don't like, nobody likes firing CEOs. Well, I guess some people like firing CEOs, but most people don't enjoy the process. It's very unpleasant and disruptive to your chance of making money. But replacing CEOs could actually be really good. I like it actually when founders get replaced sometimes. When they get more excited about something new and you put in an operator when the company has reached a certain scale, and you can actually do quite well investing in the same person's 3 different ideas, and each one of them can grow and be grown by others after a while. That being said, that's not usually the way like giant, really successful companies are built, right? That's the way things often go. And in general, most people who are good at starting things just don't have the skills and the abilities to run a bigger company. And they're not very good at it, and they need to be replaced. Even if they don't get bored, they need to be replaced. They need to understand that, like, for the good of their baby, they need to move on and not be the CEO. But that exceptional, unusual founder who is good at starting and then changes and becomes a different person, grows with the business and learns how to be a really great leader, well, that ends up being, the Sergey Brin, right? The one that built Google. So you kind of, as an investor, you do want that exception. I don't know. I mean, Sergey looks pretty bored. Like he's doing Google this and Google that, and someone else is running the ad part of Google, right? And he's having a lot of fun. So I think I don't have a good answer, right? It's both. It's definitely both. But there's a certain stubbornness and relentlessness doesn't mean you do the same thing over and over forever. It just means that giving up is not an option. You're not a quitter, you know? You're tenacious. And there's something about this like immigration experience I keep coming back to. It's not the only way. Like you guys, like, you know, some of you are immigrants, some of you are not immigrants, or whatever. Like, it looks like about half and half, I would guess, right? Obviously, there's great founders who are not immigrants. But on average, it does tend to improve your chances because there's something about that experience itself that's like a wonderful preparatory school for building a disruptive startup. And there's other ways, right? You can have other experiences that could be conducive to that level of success, but immigration is like one good thing to go through because it's hard, right? Because you land in a place or you grow up in an environment where you don't know the rules, right? You're confused about how to talk to people and how to deal with things, right? And you're really disadvantaged in the beginning, right? And then you don't just come through it, but you don't go back, you don't admit defeat, you don't like change your identity back and forth, you know? Like it's also like you leave a country and you come here and a lot of your friends don't like you. You know, I mean moving to America is not as popular a move all over the world as you might think, you know? And a lot of people don't like America and they don't like people who leave their town, right? They don't like necessarily your level of ambition. And when you build a big business, it's also pretty lonely and you lose some friends, right? I mean, it's hard. It's a lonely, difficult thing. And then but you don't give up, you persevere and you believe in yourself and you have this irrational belief that you're going to succeed before you actually have any evidence of success. So you go through all that and then you somehow make it to a point of starting a business. I mean, you've gone through a lot, right?
Wanted to see what your thoughts were on syndicate investing, if you've considered it, if you think it has changed the landscape on AngelList or other platforms.
I mean, the term in general is just a bunch of people investing together, right? That's really what it is, the generic term, and it's always been the case. And angel investing has always been syndicate investing in a sense because most angels don't have enough money to move the company all the way to the VC round. So a whole bunch of angels have to get together, and as the angels get better, they talk to each other and act more like a syndicate. Now, AngelList Syndicate is a specific mechanism. It's a really good one. AngelList has done a fantastic job. Like they're a good company, and that mechanism is effective. And what do I think of it? I have a syndicate, so I've used it a few times. I haven't used it very much. I actually think I might use it with the fund. I haven't figured out quite how, but I think I may. Whenever there's extra allocation in the fund deals, I may put it out on my AngelList Syndicate to follow the fund. So it's a good mechanism. It's just a tool, you know.
All right, thank you very much. Please, round of applause for Semyon. Thank you so much. It's really great.